Everyone, I want to talk to you about basically the tale of two censure resolutions and how our Republican leadership is handling the votes for both of them. As you know, I entered a censure resolution against Rashida Tlaib last week that was tabled when 23 Republicans joined Democrats and voted to table it. Even though I had put my information out, sent the censure resolution to all my colleagues, wrote a Dear Colleague letter talking to them about it, none of them came and discussed with me reasons to table it with the Democrats. I reintroduced my censure resolution yesterday, but so did another Republican. Rich McCormick, my colleague from Georgia, also introduced a censure resolution against Rashida Tlaib. Now, there's some very big differences in my censure resolution on Rashida Tlaib and Rich McCormick's censure resolution on Rashida Tlaib. Mr. McCormick's resolution is a very light slap on the wrist. It's basically saying that we stand with Israel, and of course we stand with Israel. We already voted on a resolution stating that last week. He also calls out some of the things that she says, like from the river to the sea, talking about the genocide of Jews in Israel and running them out of the land of Israel. Of course, we want to censure her for those words. But the difference between his censure resolution and mine is mine calls out very specifically many of her actions and the groups that she's affiliated with. More importantly, talking about October 18th, where Rashida Tlaib incited a mob of over thousands of pro-Hamas, pro-Palestinian protesters that then marched on the Capitol complex, came into our buildings that led to hundreds of them being arrested, and some of them assaulted police officers in the process. Here's the deal. Republican voters, the base, and many Americans are absolutely fed up with no one being held accountable and no one going to jail. And after all the things that have happened in our country, it's like Congress does not even acknowledge the pain that Americans go through. We're talking about everything from COVID shutdowns to a border that is raging out of control with over 10 million people entering our country and over 1.8 million gotaways. Many of them could be terrorists, and our own government is telling us that we will have a terrorist attack at any time on our land. But let's talk about January 6th for a minute. Everywhere I go across America, this is an issue that is important to Americans, because for the first time in our nation's history and the first time in our lifetime, we have witnessed and watched the weaponized government continually target Americans that simply walked through the Capitol on January 6th. My censure resolution of Rashida Tlaib forces the acknowledgement that October 18th was exactly the same as January 6th, and that if the Department of Justice is going to continue to prosecute Americans like they are, not just prosecute them, persecute them for January 6th, then these same people that came in and occupied our Cannon office building, interrupted and stopped a Senate hearing, and came into our Capitol complex taking over, they too should be prosecuted the same way January 6th defendants are by our Department of Justice. That's what my censure resolution acknowledges and points out, that there's no difference. October 18th was the same as January 6th. But this is not how the two-tier justice system in Washington treats this situation. Well, I'm upset today because I found out that our own leadership is scheduling votes in such a way to force the very simple, light, little slap on the wrist censure resolution that Rich McCormick has introduced. That one will very likely prevail, and mine will be forced to fail. And I'll tell you why. These are the games they play. His is scheduled to be voted on at around 2:45 p.m. today, this afternoon. Mine is scheduled to be voted at 10:45 p.m. tonight, when most Republicans, or some of them, will skip the vote and the Democrats will win the motion to table. Yet it's more likely that this afternoon, in the middle of the afternoon, all Republicans will show up and will vote no against the Democrats' motion to table against his censure resolution, and his will likely prevail. I think the problem here in Washington with our Republican conference is they are unwilling to hold anyone accountable, and I am frankly sick and tired of it. Look at our situation in our country. We actually have Joe Biden, who has taken checks. We have evidence of him taking checks, not one but two, from his own brother that came through money laundering. We have been leading an impeachment inquiry, but yet we have no willingness in the Republican conference to impeach Joe Biden. Again, we have a border completely out of control that has human trafficking, child sex trafficking, and drug trafficking every single day across our border by the millions now. Up to 10 million people have crossed into our country since Biden took office, and our Republican conference doesn't have the courage to impeach Secretary Mayorkas, let alone Joe Biden. No country on earth would allow their borders to be invaded every single day, yet the Biden administration invites these people in and forces American taxpayers to pay for it. But we don't have the courage in the House to censure Rashida Tlaib, a pro-terrorist member of Congress, and censure her the right way, connecting her to the groups that I was able to connect her to. Southern Poverty Law Center, the lead attorney, organized in a group called Global Intifada. Intifada, which literally means Arab uprising and jihad. That didn't happen over in Israel, ladies and gentlemen. That happened in the Cannon House building. And that's what my censure resolution would do, is hold her accountable for the groups that she has aligned herself with, that she receives support from, undoubtedly fundraising from, and they led an illegal occupation into the Cannon House building. And if the Department of Justice and the Democrats want to call January 6th an insurrection, well then for sure October 18th was exactly the same thing, an insurrection. I had to take that word out of my censure resolution from last week because insurrection was too uncomfortable for members of Congress here. So I changed it to illegal occupation. But my censure resolution, the motion to table mine, has been set for 10:45 p.m. tonight so that it is set to fail. While the very soft little slap on the wrist censure resolution, the other ones introduced by Rich McCormick, who, by the way, voted no against mine last week, and I'm sure he received dozens and probably a lot more unhappy callers into his office, and he heard from his constituents because he voted no on my resolution, which I'm sure led him to introduce his yesterday because he didn't like being told that he should have voted for mine. These are the games that are played in the swamp, and I'm absolutely sick and tired of it. Just imagine if the Republican conference in the majority in Washington, D.C. actually reflected the President Trump's policies. The same policies that Americans all over the country, even across the aisle, Democrats and independents, are ready to vote for. And President Trump is winning in the polls like something no one has ever seen before. Even though he has been indicted and being prosecuted, let's say persecuted by the weaponized government. Imagine if Republicans in Congress fought that hard and fought for those same policies. We would have the support of Republicans all over the country. But that doesn't happen here. It doesn't happen here, and I'm so tired of it, I'm calling it out. I'm calling out my own party because I'm tired of no one in Washington actually fighting for the issues that everyday Americans care about. And they care. They care to the point where they are sick and tired and fed up. And they're also losing hope. They're losing hope and confidence. They've lost all confidence in Washington. They've lost all confidence in Republicans in Washington. As a matter of fact, the policies that come out of Washington are the most America last policies I've ever seen in my life. And we should be fighting harder right now. Here we are, all we're talking about is funding foreign wars when we have a war on our own border. When we have a terrorist, Rashida Tlaib, serving as a member of Congress, no one in Congress should have a problem with voting for a very harsh, realistic censure resolution that calls her out for exactly who she is and exactly what she's done while a war is raging in Israel. But no, we can't even do that. No, it's America last all the time, and everyone's tired of it. People are tired of the weaponized government, and they have lost hope in Congress to do anything about it. People have lost their free speech rights. They're on the verge of losing their Second Amendment rights. People that walked in the Capitol on January 6th are still being rounded up by the FBI and still being charged by the two-tier justice system here in Washington, the DOJ. And by the way, how many of the pro-Palestine, let's say pro-terrorism, pro-Hamas rioters, we could say, that attacked the White House just the other night, how many of them are rotting in the DC gulag? I bet you there are none. Even though they attacked monuments, spray painted, destroyed property, almost entered the White House grounds, which is extremely dangerous. How many of them are going to be treated like January 6th defendants? I'll argue very few to none. These same people, the same organizers that did that, did it on October 18th here. But yet we're going to vote against the Democrats' motion to table resolution on mine that calls it out at 10:45 tonight, while we vote against the Democrats' motion to table on Rich McCormick's resolution that's a little slap on the wrist for Rashida Tlaib, terrorist Tlaib. That'll be at 2:45 p.m. today. I don't like it when things are set up for failure. And I really, really am tired of no one being held accountable. It's unbelievable to me. So I decided to do this video and call it out and let everyone know who wants to watch this. These are the games that are played. This is how some bills make it and some bills fail. This is how justice is done, or we'll say not done. And by the way, my censure resolution even forces terrorist Rashida Tlaib to have to come down into the well of the House while she is censured, yet Rich McCormick's doesn't even call her down to the well. She doesn't have to stand down there and face anyone. It doesn't really do anything but say, we don't like what you said and we stand with Israel. And while I certainly agree with that, I think we should start holding people a lot more accountable for exactly what they do and say. Not just be soft on it, because we all know soft on crime doesn't work. That's why there's so much crime in America today. We all know that when you never hold criminals accountable, when you never hold bad people truly accountable for what they have done wrong or how they've hurt others, or especially our federal government, how it's destroying our country, that the bad people just keep doing bad things. And I expect better. I expect better from my conference, and I expect better from people that serve in Congress that swore an oath to this country and to our Constitution. And so I'm calling this out today. Please share this and let people know. Thank you.